Hello and welcome to the Arabic Hour. I am George Abi Esper. Today our topic is the Syrian conflict, and we are fortunate to be joined by Mother Superior Agnes Mariam of the Carmelite Monastery in Homs, Syria. Mother Agnes has been a witness of the events that have transpired in the last 4 years in Syria. She has lived in Syria for the last 19 years. She has been thrust into the international scene last year with her comments, controversial comments, I would say, about the chemical attack in Syria. Since then, she has been advocating for reconciliation and also for better reporting, accurate reporting about what's taking place there. For her work and advocacy, she has been nominated by Nobel Laureate Mairead Maguire, and with her organization Reconciliation for the Nobel Prize of 2014. Mother Agnes, thank you for being here. We are honored to have you.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Mother Agnes, 4 years ago, Syria was a cradle of civilization, peaceful country, a regional power, and now over 100,000 have died, killed. Large segment of the population displaced, refugees all over the place. Entire towns, cities have been erased. What has happened?
You know, I have called this the engineering of chaos. There is an engineering, a new brand of engineering. Maybe it will be taught in universities. We are here in Massachusetts. It's the land of universities. Alas, it's a way of dismantling a country and of spoiling its resources for special interest. Sometimes it's political interest, sometimes it's financial interest. In all cases, those are dark interests. We know that a tree can be judged by its fruits. So we see that this way of intervening in the fate of a country is against the international laws. It is putting upside down the world security, and of course is damaging countries like ours in the Levant, where we have seen in less than 60 years Palestine, Lebanon, Cyprus, Iraq, then the Arabic Spring, of course Afghanistan, the Gulf, and then the Arabic Spring, with the destruction of Libya, the spoiling of Yemen, Egypt, and now we are in Syria. For me, Syria is a kind of revival, spiritually and personally. I am in Syria since 19 years, working for the restoration of a very old monastery dating back to the 6th century that was in ruin, 90 kilometers north of Damascus. We have been working for the restoration of this monastery in Qara since 1994. And in the year 2000, we have established there a community, a monastical community, to live spiritual values of prayer, contemplation, but also of dialogue with all the segment of the Syrian society, including the Jews. Syria is a real, as you said, cradle of civilization. You know that Damascus is the most ancient inhabited capital in the world. And the Bible locates the creation of the first human being, Adam, in between the two rivers that form Al Jazeera, Mesopotamia, Euphrates, and Tigris. So we are here in a kind of sanctuary. The Levant is a sanctuary between the very old Oriental civilization in Iraq, Syria, then Palestine, Egypt. This is the, the crescent. This is the fertile crescent where the three monotheism have raised: Judaism, Christianism, and Islam, and where we were supposed to live in peace as the same, as brothers of the same mother. We are from the same matrix. So to really come and change this Holy Land into a volcano where everything is allowed just to inject division and hatred and discrimination and apartheid between a brother and another brother, and accept that satellite stations are broadcasting 24 hours on 24 a new discourse of religious discrimination, of refusing the other and calling to kill him. This is a real scandal. It is anachronicity. It is against the times. We are going back to a barbarian era.
Now, the impression that we have here in the West that the war in Syria started as an expression of civil, as an expression for a call for reform, that it was an expression also of the Arabic Spring, and somehow it turned into an armed conflict. Is that impression correct, that it was an expression of reform, peaceful request for reform?
We have to be very precise when we now we look back into it. Is history. To read history is a real science, and if you miss reading the history, you are misled. First of all, if now our audience will consider that the stories that have been broadcasted by the mainstream media, namely Al Jazeera, Al Arabiya, followed by CNN, BBC, France 24, etc., that those are oracles and they are saying scientifically, systematically, the truth, we are misled. The Syrian conflict has been covered since the beginning by a very ambiguous campaign of disinformation. I have always asked myself, if a cause is just, if a cause is holy, why should we promote it with lies, false flag, and this pressure of propaganda that is not democratic, you see? So to go back to the beginning, yes, the Jazeera was showing to everybody peaceful demonstrations with a bloody repression. I am not here to justify or to be the advocate of any regime. First of all, I do not interfere in politics. I am a simple witness. But when being on the Syrian ground and surrounded by those events, I am a witness. I will not allow that lies would circulate to cover something that was hidden, dark, and now it is displayed more and more, but maybe it is too late because the brains have been washed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I can tell you from authentic sources, and not to justify a regime that was a dictatorship, and still it is a way of ruling, kind of dictatorship. I am not here to justify a regime, but I am here to respect a state. It is different. You know, a state is for everybody. If you are selling a field and this field has trees, you cannot cut the trees and say that you want to sell this field in the same price. Mm-hmm. The trees form part of the field. Wherever you are, a good gardener or a bad gardener, okay? So it is the same in Syria. Syria is a state. It has resources. It has trees. It's not because some of the gardeners who were, you know, taking care of it were bad or were less good that we have to cut all the trees and burn all the country. This is a first principle. Mm-hmm. Second, concerning the repression, I have the list of the first killed people in Syria. Since the beginning of March, more or less, the first or second, I don't remember, week of March 2011, until October 2011, I can tell you that 65% of the killed people were from the security forces. How can you explain it? I have their names. I have the places where they have been killed. Just tell me, give me an explanation how an oppressor is so much victim, is becoming a victim first. Now, I have made my own research. And I have brought with me to the office of the High Commissioner of Human Rights in Geneva witnesses of the very first events in Daraa. I can tell you that the event of the nails that have been taken out is a false flag. We have been able to rebuild the story, to find the families, to talk with them, and to bring from the neighborhood all the proofs that it is a false flag. Mm. And what happened in Daraa were not a only peaceful demonstration. It was virtually peaceful demonstration, but in reality a coup de force. Mm-hmm. Because, and Mrs. Sharmeen Narwani has written, it is a reporter, she wrote, I think 1 week ago, I think that it is in Al-Akhbar English, a whole report on this first day of the uprising, where she proves that it was everything but a peaceful uprising. Mm-hmm. In the first day, administrative buildings were burned. Security forces and even officers were slaughtered, etc., etc. So it is not true that it was a peaceful uprising. It was a coup. It was a plot. Now, does it mean that the Syrian people are not willing changes or reform? I am not saying this. And to really understand this desire for change, you have to go back to the Damascus Spring. Nobody is talking about the Damascus Spring. Not even the protagonists, those who have been, the major player of this spring. More than 200 personalities made a kind of charter and presented it to the president of Syria, asking reforms, substantial reforms, and change.
Can you remind us when was the Damascus Spring?
I think I am very bad in the dates, but I think it was in 2005. 200 intellectuals, artists, and free people that have free, offices or employment. They signed a kind of charter asking for reforms. It was the decree or the manifesto of Damascus. And because of this, they were put in jail. So this is the beginning, this is the spring, or the first blossom of the Syrian population asking diligently for reform, substantial reforms.
What type of reform they were looking for?
Well, I am not an expert, but I can tell you that they wanted to take off the first and the third article of the Constitution, that why the president should be a Sunni, why a Christian,
Sunni or
in the Constitution, the president should be a Sunni. Yes, and that the Quran is the source of the legislation. They wanted, a distance between state and religion. They wanted more democratical application of the law. They wanted to be really liberated from the intelligence services, from the intermixture between what is legal and what is parallel. A lot of things, you don't need to be very much expert to just say what is necessary in Syria. Okay, less corruption, more equality of chances, etc. Now, this was, a secular strife, a secular expression of real democracy. And you have people like Anton Makdisi, who was completely, chastised because of this, and he wrote a letter to the president. So intellectual, very educated, wanting the president to go ahead, to step forward into reforms, because they love their country. So, now, if we come back to the so-called Arabic Spring, now everybody is saying that it is no more, it has never been a spring. It is a virtual spring, it is a spring in the media, but in reality it is an autumn and maybe it is a winter, and I will call it a hell, okay, an Arabic hell. But to go back to this revolution, I would like to ask myself and the others, without paying my respect to the belief of any single person in Syria. Why after 1 or 2 weeks the demonstrations would be colored with one color of religion? Why should they be held a Friday, the holy day of the Muslims, our Muslims brothers? Why should they go out from mosques? Why not, for example, from cultural center? Okay, and why would they have slogans that are typically of one religion? What does it mean for a strive for freedom and for democracy to put, this color of religion? With all our respect, Because, you know, in Syria, we are not one color. And we have to respect the others, their feeling. In Syria, where I have been living since 19 years, we were living in a real paradise concerning the pluralism, the plurality. We were living together, Sunni, Alawite, Christian of different denominations, including Catholics, Orthodox, Protestant, even, you know, all kinds of confessions and denominations, Druzes, Ismailite, Yazidite, Sabaite. Then you had different ethnics like Kurds, like Caucasian, Armenians, you know, all these people and much more from Sudan, from Iraq. And, you know, Syria has always been a refuge, a land of refuge. It opened its door for the Palestinian, and they gave them equal chances as anyone else. I think the sole Arabic country to give this kind of hospitality to the Palestinians. The same they have done with the Iraqis. We had, I think, 2 million of Iraqis in Syria. All those people were living in peace, in civilian peace together, okay? And without any discrimination. It was a taboo to mention your own religion or to question the other about his religion. This was a real freedom. The Apostolic Nuncio, the ambassador of the Vatican in Syria, told me, and I don't think that he is a big supporter of Assad, but he said, for the freedom of religion, for the pluralism, I would give 10 on 10, A plus for Syria.
Around what time did he say that?
During the uprising, he said, yes. He said, I would give for the freedom of religion or the pluralism, you know, how we exist together, how we live together, the atmosphere of brotherhood, he would give an A plus. Okay. So if we were like this, I am talking now not on politics, I am talking on the level of very normal and simple civilian life. Why would you think that you will come for reform taking this color? Why? Do you want, for example, to impose yourself on the others? Okay, you want to impose yourself. Will it be more democratical to impose yourself? What, for example, if here in United States, one of the here you are much more, you know, richer in this social tissue. What if a big component, you know, would begin to wave with its slogan, with its color, and try to impose either you want to come with us, this is democracy, or you will not come and we will consider you as a renegade. Is it possible? Is it possible that a Quaker would do this, or the Presbyterian would do this, or the Catholic would do this, or the Jews would do this? Is it possible? Would you accept? So if you don't accept, and you will not accept, because the American Revolution is based on solid principles of democracy. You have laws, you know, that respect this diversity, and even the smallest community, the newest community coming here to USA will find itself at home, because they can promote their way of life, they can live freely with their religious symbols, etc., without anybody interfering. But concerning the administration of the state, there is a real distinction. You cannot mix up. So this revolution has done this error. It was colored very quickly, and those who are saying that it was not are really misleading the public opinion.
What kind of slogan? You mentioned that there were slogan of
Well,
certain
Allahu Akbar, I respect those some slogans, I respect, but they are not my slogan. If they say Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, it is their slogan, I respect, but I would maybe have another one. And it doesn't have anything to do with, a civilian quest for reform. What come to do, those religious slogan, okay? For example, they would say, they would say, then it became kind of violent, saying the Christian to Beirut and the Alawite to the Tabut. Tabut means to the tomb.
The Christians to
Beirut.
To send them to Beirut.
To send them to Beirut. And the Alawite, we will send them to the tomb, to the grave, to the Tabut. You see, and you can follow the videos, and you will see that it was promoted with a big enhancement given to the religious factor. Okay, this religious factor, when it is not violent, when it is not requesting the annihilation of the others, we can accept it, we respect it, but you cannot take it as a tool to implement any kind of reform, because you are hijacking the country to your own color, to your own identity. We are a pluralistic society. What are you doing? So now, many Christians were very much interested in these changes, in good changes, until today. For example, take us out the third article. Why a Muslim couldn't convert to Christianity? Why a Christian can convert to Islam, and in the same moment he will become Islam with all, Muslim with all the the facilities, while the other way is completely forbidden. Okay, so all this creates a lack of equality. So Christians are, and they are not only interested in this, they are interested in all kind of promoting better social life, less corruption, less violence. We want that the justice would be real, that the laws would be applied by everybody, that there won't be some circles, some administrations that are hidden, intelligence services, that they would bypass the justice, etc., etc. But when the uprising began to be really colored with one color, well, many Christians felt, not at ease, not at home. And so they withdrew. And when they withdrew, began the retaliation. So if it is a democracy, if it is a quest for democracy, we have to respect the position of the other. We began very quickly to be under attacks and
Christians?
under everybody,
yeah.
under attacks and under threats. So where is this added values? I am not Syrian, but I know, I have heard that if you do something, sometimes without doing anything, for corruption or for delation, you can be approached by the intelligence services and maybe you can disappear. Okay, and when you disappear, there will be a kind, of torture. You will be punished, you will be beaten, everybody knows this. I am not saying something new. But there was not, in our time, before this uprising, you didn't have a total atmosphere of threat. It was something, like floating, and sometimes coming into completion. But with this uprising, every single person was under threat. Sometimes only because you are not with. So we did not experiment a freedom of thinking, a freedom of talking, of expressing ourselves, a freedom of believing. So this is a big error. Today I am here in the United States. I can tell you that I am under threat.
What do you mean by
I am
that?
under threat. You have opponents and very prominent opponents. They put me under threat. So, they threaten me.
So you are receiving threats of physical
Of course,
violence?
I am under threat. I am on blacklist. Why? Because I am saying what you hear me saying. I will say it. It is for the sake of the Syrian population. We are not anymore in an era where, you know, a leader comes and he imposes what he wants under threat. A threat is anti-democratic.
Now, you mentioned in the past that foreign involvement was apparent. When did you begin to notice foreign involvement in the conflict in Syria?
Look, the foreign involvement in Syria is a fact. It is a fact. I will tell you something that I related in March 2011. I had the testimony of some of our youth living in Homs because they were, inscribed in the university. So during the demonstrations, they would see fighters under drugs, like not with all their consciousness, firing on everybody. And when the security forces answers to prevent that more people would be killed, they told me that they saw this Afghani man. He was a kind of Afghan. He was not Syrian, with his arm broken, very much injured, and he was not feeling. He was laughing. Okay. And many doctors in Homs told us that when such kind of foreign fighters, masked, they were, by that time you didn't have a declaration of a declared armed opposition. But they were, sneaking inside. So when they received such people, they would always remark that or note that they were under drugs, under Captagon. Okay. So this was the first. Myself, when I went to Homs in 2011, November and December 2011, we noted that the situation was not black and white. From one part, peaceful demonstrations, very democratical, and on the other part, repression. We noticed, and we had mainstream reporters. They wrote it in their articles and their documentaries, saying that we have noted a third factor that was hidden by the mainstream media. And this third factor was the presence, heavy presence, of unidentified armed gangs spoiling the security of the civilian population on an every hour basis. I have an unplugged documentary. I have never, put it to public. It is for my own use. The 5th of December, we were in Homs. We slept.
2011? Okay.
We slept in Homs, where we could note that there were fightings. Everyone was fighting with another, but it was not related in the media. And in the morning, from 9 o'clock morning to 3 o'clock afternoon, we just walked in what today is very well known. It is the historical center of Homs, from Bustan al-Diwan to Wadi Sayih, passing by Odon. I can't tell you what we have seen. It was, you know, like a Kafkayan, you know what is Kafka? It was a Kafkayan quest, because every meter we would see either a dead man, either people that were beheaded, either a explosive device, until arriving to the National Hospital, where this very day we saw 100 corpses of civilians killed, and nobody knew why they were killed. Okay. It was an unleashing of unidentified armed gang to dismantle, you know, the daily life of the Syrian civilian population, to paralyze the employees not to go to their work, and to stop the students to go to their schools, etc., etc. So to tell you, we know, and if someone would like, I can provide all my stuff, you know, of proofs and evidences. Stop saying that this uprising was something peaceful and that it was repressed. It has nothing to do with the dictatorship. They have, you know, innocented the dictatorship with a new dictatorship that slowly by slowly, because after 2011 was the beginning, then you had 2012 and then 2013, and the whole world has seen the emergence and I would say the unveiling of the most horrible, barbarian, sectarian war on innocent. They cannot, you know, advocate anything like freedom and democracy with the methods they are using in Syria.
Well, joining us is Mother Superior Mariam Agnes. We are talking about the Syrian situation. We are going to take a short break and come back for more after this station ID.
You are watching The Arabic Hour, a program of news, views, culture, cuisine, and the Arab American experience. To view today's program or any previous programs, log on to our website at www.arabichour.org.
At what point did your involvement became public? I mean,
yes. Well, I had one point of publicity in my, well, before maybe. Look, I have been asked since March to give my opinion, March 2011, to give my opinion on the Syrian Spring. And by this time I wrote an article, 12 pages, Syria in the how to tell, because it was in French, but it was then translated to English. In the flood of disinformation, okay, where I pointed out that it was very ambiguous that an event would be so heavily, you know, covered by so many mainstream media and lying, etc. This, you know, was my first. Then I wrote many articles because I had people that were, I began to discover the alternative media on the internet and how there is a real community of people trying to understand better and to go deeper in events here and there. And so this was my first, you know, encounter with them. The second step was when I invited with the Catholic Center of Information in Lebanon reporters to come and make their own job on the Syrian ground, and they disveiled the reality of the presence by this time of the unidentified armed gang. Then we will wait until the Hula massacre, where I gave my witnessing that the Hula massacre was also a false flag. And when the Irish radio television interviewed me, I think it was around June 2012, the English-speaking media began to be interested by what I had to say. So it was exponential, slowly by slowly, you know, like Fox News, ABC, etc. I gave my testimony. Now, by this time in 2000 and beginning 2012, I began to be involved in reconciliation. And so at the end of 2012, I was invited by Mairead Maguire to Belfast. It is she's a Prize Nobel Laureate, to talk about reconciliation and how to find the good grassroots initiative to build the bridges and a peace-building approach of the Syrian conflict. And then slowly, but you know, it's a long story to tell you the truth, but I was effectively involved very quickly as a witness, as a living witness in the Syrian conflict.
And you submitted a report to the United Nations Council, Human Rights Council, on the poison attack. Do you still believe, or do you believe that the attack, did the attack happen, do you think, that poison attack take place?
Yes. Look, we were, Sister Carmel and myself, we were in Damascus the very day, the very night where the alleged chemical attacks happened. We noted in the morning big ambulances coming to the region of Mazzi. A lot of ambulances. And we have been told that it was army that entering in the tunnels in the Ghouta, they were suffocating. And if you remember, the UN observers or the UN expert went to see those soldiers in the hospital. This was our first, if you want, experience of the chemical attacks. Now, I was not involved in the beginning because we had to go immediately after to leave Damascus. But after a few days, the families, the survivors of the Latakia massacre, you know that the 4th of August happened a terrible massacre in 13 villages in the mountains of Latakia. Jubhat al-Nusra and affiliate slaughtered innocent civilians on a sectarian basis. During the night they were sleeping, and they really committed atrocities.
Now, Al-Nusra, this is a Al-Qaeda type organization?
Yes, Alnusrah Front is an armed faction of the Syrian opposition that is affiliated to Al-Qaeda. So the survivor of this massacre, they slaughtered more than 200 people in a very terrible way. We were, you know, documenting this violation of human rights because we work in this field, and we sent a team to make the documentation and also to provide humanitarian aid. So we were in contact. So after the 22nd of August, where the chemical attacks happened, the families, the surviving families, some of the surviving families contacted me to tell me that they have recognized some of their children between the dead children that were in the videos of the chemical attacks. So that thing brought me to study the videos, and when I was invited to Geneva to the Human Rights Council as observer for the 24th Assembly, I wrote a 50-page study where I put my insight. Now, I never said, because I am not an expert, if the chemical attacks happened or did not, or who has done them. I have never entered in any kind of expertise, neither medical nor military. But what I have said, and you know, my study exists, it is on the internet, is that those videos that were chosen by the intelligence community in the US are fake. And all the evidences were to give me reason.
Now, there was a spillover of the conflict from Syria into Lebanon. However, there were occasions of fighting in Tripoli. However, in Lebanon, it was contained. That's positive signs for Lebanon, correct? That the conflict is not spreading out.
Well, we passed a very difficult moment during those 3 years. You remember the explosive devices that they sent us, and we were immersed into jihadist people moving into Lebanon. You know that more than 20,000 jihadists were coming to Lebanon as a base and then entering inside Syria. I think that the very day that the border between Syria and Lebanon was closed after the Battle of Kalamoun, there was no more possibility for the jihadist, for the Islamist fighter to remain in Lebanon. And so they were, I think, attracted to Turkey. And the very day they left, so, security and stability will come back with a common sense of the Lebanese authorities to work for the implement of a real security initiative plan. There was a security plan that was implemented, and everybody backed this plan. And we thank the Lord that they were, wise enough, or else Lebanon was heading toward another war, another proxy war.
Now there are Syrian refugees in Lebanon, and the situation of the Syrian refugees in Jordan and other, I believe in Iraq and Turkey, is very dire. Can you share with us what efforts are being done to help the refugees?
The refugees are spread mostly first in Turkey. Not that they are the most numerous, but they began to fill Turkey, the Turkish camps, Lebanon and Jordan. I will not hide to the public opinion that those refugees, especially in Turkey and in Jordan, are used or manipulated for political and financial means. In Turkey, a lot of the refugees are families of the armed opponent. It is a good way, to provide back bases to the fighters in Turkey, where they can have their wives, they can have their children, and the international community is feeding those families. And when after their rest, the fighters can go back to Syria to continue this battle. So it was used in a two-way, if you want, convenience. In Jordan, you have the same frame, but also in both countries, you have real refugees. They fled, from the violence. Now, I have to say that many of those families want to come back to Syria because their conditions in those camps are infrahuman. When I look at the amount of financial aid that the international community is providing for those camps, I cannot understand how those people are underfed and they are undertreated medically and on the humanitarian basis. Somehow, the ads do not go only for feeding and helping and caring those refugees, but it is spent somewhere else. Okay? Now, when those families want to come back to Syria, they are prevented.
By?
Why? By the authorities. I know.
By the Syrian authorities?
No, by Jordan or by Turkish.
I see.
Their IDs, they are not given back to them, and they have to be smuggled back to their country. So we ask the international community to provide the resettlement of the Syrian refugees into their country and to stop using them as a resource to be manipulated, to have more funds, to be spent somewhere else. And I will tell you, the funds are in a large way spent for ammunition by the opposition. I will say it, okay? Now, in Lebanon, I don't think it is the same frame, but the refugees that are in the northern camps and in the Bekaa camps are slowly becoming like assisted. And so instead of being productive as they were in their country, because a big amount of them, a big proportion, were peasant. They were working in their land. So instead of being productive, they are assisted. And this, with the time, will create big social problems. And Lebanon is the smallest country in the Middle East. Why should everybody think about Lebanon as a land of refuge for, the Arabic people? Okay. Of course that I am Lebanese. Of course that we are a country with hospitality. Of course that we consider any human being as our brother. But we have to take also into account that Lebanon is a very small country, 10,542 square kilometers, and that it is already surpopulated. So with now the adjunction of more than 2 millions, it means 50% more of our Syrian brothers. And I think they come to Lebanon, uselessly, just to be assisted. I have heard on the border people talking to one to another, where are you going? I say, I will go to a camp. Why? Because they will give me money, point. Okay. So I think that the international community has to work to resettle those people into their country and not in camps. I am against camps.
Now, what efforts, you mentioned reconciliation, you are involved in reconciliation. What efforts towards reconciliations are happening?
Look, reconciliation is a very good news for Syria. This initiative is a grassroots initiative emerging from the daily suffering of the Syrian population that is facing a sectarian war. I would say an artificial sectarian. It is because alimented from outside. So some of the civilian leaders, like tribe leaders, family responsibles, etc., and spiritual leaders met, and they made an oath that they will never use violence one against another. And this was in the beginning of 2012. So they launched everywhere in Syria reconciliation initiatives to build bridges, to negotiate settlements, and to be mediators and to give guarantees of security to any one of the camps if they would have, kind of exchange between abductees and detainees. Or so reconciliation works on many levels. As I tell you, the first one is exchange between detainees and abductees. Second field is the demilitarization. What does it mean? Instead of opposing with guns and ammunition and violence and destroying everything, you have villages, you have neighborhoods, you have cities that decided to just keep quiet. We are opponent, but we will not destroy our country. We will ask the government not to interfere in our affairs, to let us lead our own neighborhood by ourselves on an opposition point of view without fighting. And this happened in some places, and it was a first fruit of reconciliation. Then you have the reconciliation that goes really into a settlement of a military conflict, and this means a longer term negotiation, building bridges where the government will not talk to the armed opposition. The armed opposition will not talk to the government nor to the security forces. So you have mediators. The mediators are well accepted by both because they are neutral. Mm-hmm. So they will, make a kind of going and coming to see what are the conditions of a settlement. And today, all this endeavor is giving its fruits. So you have many sectors, beginning by Tal Kalakh, then the Wadi, the Valley of the Christian, Al-Husn. All the military victories were preceded by reconciliation settlement, and that's why you had a military victory, you see.
Now, I have read, you mentioned that you are Lebanese, you have lived through the Lebanese civil war, and now you have lived through another horrible, tragic war in Syria.
Yes.
As a person of God, how has that affected your faith, and how has your faith helped you through this?
I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe in his revelation. I believe that he is the Alpha and the Omega of our history and of our life. And Jesus, he didn't remain in heaven. He was in heaven. He didn't remain in heaven. He came to be immersed with us. And he carried all our life, all our concern, because he loves us. So for me, Jesus is my example. In the normal times, I was living in my monastery with my community, taking care of spiritual things, of cultural things, even of development things. But we were never introducing ourselves in public things. Res publica, it means politics, but it's politics on a civilian level, Today, with those events, we learn to be more engaged, more concerned in the daily life of our brethren, even though it is dangerous. It is a way, to learn martyrdom. Mm-hmm. You have had many holy people that gave their life for Syria. You have Father Haddad, who was killed. He was tortured and he was killed because he wanted to make reconciliation and make an exchange between abductees and ransom in Judaidah Tartus. You have Father France, the Jesuit. He gave his life. He was killed by those whom he decided to accompany during the siege of Homs. And you have many others. You have tribe sheikhs, tribes leaders. Many people of reconciliation gave their life because they were engaged. They were, committed in these without any reward. Mm-hmm. We do it out of any reward. We just do it to put peace, to put understanding, to lower the tension. So for me, the cross, the problems, the darkness, war, death is terrible. But it's not the end. You see, it is a station, it is the train station for the end, that is always a resurrection. It is always open to hope. And it is a moment of judgment, of purification. You see, Syria was in need for purification. We were in need, like in Lebanon, like everywhere. We are in need for purification. When we just look at the materialistic life, that we want to eat and we want to work and we want to gain money, it's good, but it's not enough. We have always to understand that it is not our sole horizon. There is something else, deeper, greater, everlasting. Anything on this earth has an end. Our life, first of all, our life. Do we know at what time we will die? This is a terrible problem, that I can die now. So we have to be like animated with another concern, a concern for the everlasting goods. And what we live in Syria, because we are living in Syria. Our monastery was shaken, it was shelled. We have seen so many beautiful things in our monastery completely destroyed. But not only in our monastery, we are better than others. When I look in Ma'lula, when I look in Aleppo, when I look in so beautiful neighborhood, when I look in the Jazeera, where all the crops, millions of acres were just, ravaged, and we don't know why. Okay, all this is very bad. All this, makes you suffer. I suffered when I saw the icons, the beautiful icons of Ma'lula being desecrated and destroyed, because you cannot have them again. Okay, it's our history, it's our memory. All this is terrible. I cried. They told me, why are you crying for icons? You should cry for human beings. Well, I am crying for everybody. I have seen with my own eyes people that were, cut in pieces. I have seen young men beheaded, and their mother telling me, please, why? What can I say? Okay. So it is a big challenge. And let us remember that it can happen to any one of us. Here, you have had big wars for, the secession war, 2 million of death here in America. Okay, so peace is a gift. War is a challenge. But for a believer, it's not the end. And we have seen in each step how the Lord is accompanying us, to anoint us with compassion, to give us an endeavor, to give us a commitment to help our brothers and sisters. Humanitarian help is a very good momentum to catch, to be able to show our love for our brethren. So it is also an occasion to show the best of you, and we are happy to love. We are happy to be so in solidarity, you see. And we hope that everyone who will hear us will not just politicize, she is with. I am not with. I am above. And being above, I am not partisan. I love Syria, and I hope that Syria will become again a spot of light for all Middle East.
Mother Agnes, thank you so much for taking the time, sharing with us your witness of what's going on, and we hope that the situation will be better, and we pray that the Lord be with you.
Let us hope.
Thank you.
Thank you for this station. Thank you for the audience. God bless you.
Thank you.
You are watching the Arabic Hour, a program of news, views, culture, cuisine, and the Arab American experience. To view today's program or any previous programs, log on to our website at www.arabichour.org.
Well, that's all what we have for today. Thank you for joining us, and we hope that you join us next week for another program of the Arabic Hour.